Sir, what are you saying that subsidy removal is not a reform? And if, of course, yes, of course, that's what you're saying. But can you explain further for us, even based on what I've just read quickly, and especially for our listeners to really understand your take on these serious issues in our nation today?
Well, Bishop, thank you for having me, and good morning to our wonderful callers and listeners. That's I hope that I wish everybody well, and I hope today is going to be better than yesterday. See, I make I do not make pretense about it. It's what you read is what it is. Subsidy removal is not a reform, and I said that we should stop this intellectual dishonesty. I call it intellectual dishonesty because subsidy removal itself is not reform. It's simply a public policy decision. It's not structural reform. And for you to say that reform has taken place or reform itself means fixing the institutions, you need to address the problems, incentives, and you need to address governance issues, that is governance system, and accountability failure. The reason we removed subsidy was that even the president said it yesterday, I think so, when he was talking to Receiving World Bank, and the challenge for him and what he said, that we remove subsidy because of corruption. That's the major reason, that monies meant for subsidy payment went into private individuals. And the question is that if you're talking about a reform, how well have you addressed the issue of accountability? How have you addressed how have you fixed the system? Have you fixed the NNPC itself? The things that led to subsidy removal, what did you do to address them before you begin to call it reform? Because it was so easy for states to remove subsidy, because it doesn't need any capacity to remove subsidy. The only thing you just need to do is public policy decision and public policy pronouncement. Subsidy is gone and that's it. And for you to say that subsidy, before you begin to go about saying that subsidy removal is a reform, is a radical reform, so, like some of the lawmakers, we have heard them and some politicians say that we have promised reform. Before you call subsidy removal a reform, let's see, did you fix the institution? Did you address the incentives? Did you address governance issue? Have you addressed accountability? Is NNPC still not corrupt? Is there accountability in the issue of fuel subsidy, even payment, importation and exportation? So I know that subsidy removal on its own is simply physical adjustment, and I make no pretense about it. It's simply a pricing decision that shift the cost brutally from the state to the citizens. You just made is that you shift the brutal cost of subsidy removal, subsidy from the state to the citizens. So it's not any serious reform. And calling it a reform without institutional overhaul, it's without calling subsidy reform, calling subsidy removal a reform without institutional overhaul, transparency on how savings are used, social protection and investments in alternatives such as transport rather, energy and livelihood is intellectual lazy and institutional convenience. So if you say you have achieved the reform, let us see how it reflects in institutional overhaul. Let us see how transparent you are in the issue of subsidy savings. What the state said was that the subsidy removal is being used to pay, what do they call it, debts, if I'm not mistaken. But we have also seen that much of the money saved from subsidy has gone into state governors' pocket even in the federal level. Nobody is actually explaining to Nigerians in clear terms how we are deploying money gotten from the state subsidy. The state governors are not telling the people what they are doing with the money. The federal government is not telling people what they are doing with the money. Even those who found in the National Assembly, I think that they are also getting more money in the name of constituency project. We see them enjoying themselves. So there's no conversation about transparency in how savings are being used. And if we talk even in terms of social protection, what we call social safety, where are the social safety? All they told you is they told you that they are going to give you a bag of rice, they are going to pay some persons 5,000, they are going to pay some persons 2,000 naira, 10,000, or as the case may be, what they call conditional cash transfer. The question for me really is that how transparent is that, and how useful and how effective in that is that kind of behavior in terms of nation building. These are the issues we are talking about. And let's see alternative investment in alternatives as alternatives. As we speak today, where is the transport system? Where is the energy? And how is it affecting livelihood? They told us that the state is going to make CNG available, or state is even going to make the CNG available for those that want to convert to CNG. Even if you convert your car to CNG and I take my car to my village, where will I buy the CNG? Yeah, if you drive from here to, if you're traveling on the road, how many filling stations have CNG? And what is even the availability and the cost? And in terms of energy, petrol is a Nigeria energy security. As I speak to you now, I was able to charge my phone using my power bank. But there's no light where I'm sitting here today. See where I'm sitting right now. There are no electricity. There is no electricity. So what I'm saying therefore is that it's so easy to call to begin to brag about that subsidy removal is reform. For real, for subsidy removal is not reform. But let me also say that also it's intellectually lazy and political convenient for people to just to say this is reform. But then again, from my own understanding or where I speak from, that is from a people-centered development perspective, or from the development perspective, the real questions should be who bear the cost of subsidy removal? Who bears the cost of subsidy removal? Is it the state, or is it the citizens? We need to answer that question. Question number two is, who benefits from the subsidy removal? Is it the people? Are they the people, the citizens, or the few elites, the political elite, and some of their cronies who are now billionaires because subsidy has been removed? And the question again is, who decided that subsidy should be removed, and who executed and who was excluded from that decision? These are the issues, and until these questions are answered honestly, subsidy removal remains what it is. It's a policy choice. Subsidy removal is a public policy choice, not a reform. And let's be precise, we shouldn't be using language and to confuse what public policy is. And as a matter of fact, if you are talking about reform, let us see that even the subsidy, after the subsidy removal, till today, I am not aware of any government-owned refinery that is working. Maybe I may not be right. I have not found out, but maybe they may be working, but I do not know. The Port Harcourt refineries that even the National Assembly celebrated, of course, you know what happened. That refinery is not working. You talk about the Kaduna refineries and you talk about the Warri refineries. What reform actually means is that you get these things fixed. Reform is not just pronouncement because you know that there's no state capacity to do that. And I'm saying clearly we should leave this conversation. We should leave this buzzword. And I also need us to understand that the citizens must really understand that what the politicians, the media talk about, because it's so easy, you see the media saying supporting the government narrative, supporting the politicians and their political narrative that the subsidy removal is a reform. Oh, for God's sake, subsidy removal is not a reform. It's a public policy decision and a public policy pronouncement. And I have just told you what reforms is all about. If we achieve some of the things I've mentioned, that's when you begin to talk about
That's when I call it a reform.
that we cannot call it a reform. But as it is now, it's a public policy decision, and we should not stop. The government should stop this idea of everywhere you go to is saying we are pushing radical reform. What kind of reform are you pushing when there are nothing on ground to show, apart from the fact that some persons have made more money, governors are super rich, the people at the federal level are super rich, even the lawmakers are super rich because they have seen more money. Because what subsidy removal does is just a pure capitalist incentive movement, naked capitalist system and market fundamentalist movement embedded in neoliberal model. What it does is that, as I always said, as I had always told you, what that does is that it makes few individuals, tiny fraction of the population, the few individuals, very small, tiny population, it makes them extremely rich at the expense of the larger population of the people. It takes away the middle class and it creates a huge poverty that destroys purchasing power. And let me say clearly, if this government wants people to be listening to them in terms of reform, let us see massive industrialization discourse and industrialization output. Let us see massive infrastructure. Let us see the issue of inflation. Let us see the issue of insecurity. These are the kind of reform. When you see, let us see, it's not just public policy pronouncement. And let us see transportation system. Let us see the rail system work. This, when you begin to do this thing, you begin to know that this is reform. And your reform again will also speak very well for you during the time of election. If you conduct free, fair, credible election today, and you're overwhelmingly voted by Nigerians, you can hit your hand on your chest to say you have actually done reform. And this conversation about reform, who are you speaking to? Who is feeding you that you have done reform? Go to the street and talk to people who the reform is meant to serve. Listen to them. Are they the ones saying you have done well? Or are you listening to the World Bank and IMF